If you have ever paid for something twice without realizing it, this is almost certainly how it happened. A cashier looks at the screen, says it did not go through, and asks you to try again. Most people just do it, a little embarrassed, not wanting to hold up the line, not wanting to ask questions in front of strangers. That instinct to just move quickly is exactly what quietly costs people money. Knowing that a second attempt can sometimes create a duplicate charge matters, but it is not the real problem. The real problem is standing there feeling rushed and a little embarrassed, saying nothing, while a mistake nobody meant to happen goes through anyway. So let us fix that in less time than it takes to finish paying, and let us cover this at the register, at the gas pump, and with tap to pay, because it shows up in all three places a little differently. Here is what is actually happening on that little screen. When you pay, the terminal sends a request to your bank and waits for an answer. That answer comes back one of three ways: approved, declined, or no response at all, usually because the connection was slow for a moment. A slow connection and a decline are not the same thing, even though most cashiers are trained to describe both of them with the exact same four words: it did not go through. Consumer attorneys who review these disputes say this confusion, an unclear response being treated the same as a firm decline, is behind a meaningful share of the duplicate charge complaints people file every year. Nobody usually means for it to happen. It is simply a busy cashier repeating a phrase they say constantly without realizing it might mean something different this time. Here is the moment that actually protects you, and it takes about 10 seconds. Instead of handing your card back right away, ask this: can you confirm if that was a clear decline or if it just did not receive a response? You are not accusing the cashier of anything. You are simply giving them a reason to look at the screen instead of repeating what they always say. If the answer is a clean decline, you are finished. Nothing else to think about. But if the cashier is not sure, that uncertainty is exactly the moment worth slowing down for. If that first attempt actually goes through, moments later in the background, and a second charge lands right on top of it, you are now paying twice for one purchase, and your bank likely will not catch it automatically because two charges from the same store on the same day rarely look unusual to a system built to catch fraud, not duplicates. So if the answer is uncertain, ask for 60 seconds before trying again. That short window is often enough for a delayed response to finally come through. If the store cannot wait that long, ask for the exact time of the first attempt to be noted. That single detail turns a stressful dispute weeks later into a quick and simple fix. Now let us talk about why this particular moment feels so uncomfortable for so many people, because understanding that is part of what makes it easier to handle. Standing in a register with a line behind you creates a very specific kind of pressure. Nobody wants to be the person holding things up. Nobody wants to seem like they do not understand how to pay for something as simple as groceries or gas. That discomfort is completely normal, and it has nothing to do with age or ability. It is simply how most people are wired in a moment where strangers are watching. But that same discomfort is exactly what a calm, short question defeats. Asking whether something was a clear decline or an unclear response takes about 3 seconds to say out loud. It does not slow the line down in any noticeable way. It does not draw attention to you. It simply gives the cashier a reason to actually look at their screen instead of repeating a habit. This same feeling shows up at the gas pump too, just in a quieter way because you are usually alone. When a pump screen freezes or shows an error, many people feel a flash of frustration and simply walk inside to pay a different way, without thinking twice about the pump itself. Here's what is easy to miss in that moment. Pumps commonly place a temporary hold on your account before fueling even begins, often for more than you actually plan to spend. If you walk away from a frozen pump and pay differently inside, that original hold does not always clear right away. It is not exactly a duplicate charge, but it can sit on your account and reduce your available balance for several days, which can feel just as unsettling if you are not expecting it. The same simple habit helps here too. If a pump screen looks unclear, take note of the time and the pump number before walking away, so that if the hold takes a few days longer than expected, you already know exactly what happened and when. Tap to Pay creates its own version of this same discomfort, especially for people who are still getting used to it. When you tap your card and the terminal shows a spinning symbol instead of a clear result, the instinct is often to tap again right away, the same way you might press a stuck button a second or third time without thinking. But an immediate second tap can sometimes register as a second separate request, even if the first one was quietly still processing the entire time. Waiting just a few seconds for a clear result, rather than tapping again immediately, solves this completely, and it is a small adjustment that becomes automatic after doing it once or twice. Let us hear both versions of this moment side by side, using the classic checkout counter scenario since it is the one most people run into most often. Wrong way. The screen freezes. The cashier says it did not go through. The customer, feeling the line behind them, says nothing and hands the card back right away. Weeks later, two identical charges show up, and there is no clear memory of what actually happened at the register. Right way. The screen freezes. The cashier says it did not go through. The customer calmly asks whether it was a clear decline or an unclear response. The cashier checks and says it is not certain. The customer asks for a short pause or for the time to be written down. Either the second charge never happens, or if it does, there is already exactly what is needed to fix it fast. It is also worth saying plainly that this habit gets easier every time you use it, the same way any small new routine does. The first time you ask the question out loud, it might feel slightly unfamiliar, almost like practicing a new phrase in a language you are still learning. By the second or third time, it becomes automatic, said calmly and quickly without any second thought. And the cashier's response usually takes only a few seconds either way. Most people who build this habit stop noticing they are even doing it after a short while. The same way checking your mirrors before backing out of a driveway eventually becomes automatic, rather than something you consciously think through each time. And if a duplicate charge does slip through despite everything, take a breath, because this is genuinely one of the easier problems to resolve. You do not need to prove anything complicated. You simply contact your bank, explain that you were charged twice for one purchase, and give them the approximate time and the name of the store. Because this happens to so many people, banks generally have a smooth process for it, and a temporary credit is typically applied within days while the details are confirmed. It also helps to remember that this small moment of discomfort at the register is not unique to you, and it is not a sign of anything other than being a considerate person in a public space. Almost everyone feels some version of that same hesitation. The worry about holding up a line, the mild embarrassment of a card not working the first time, the instinct to just get it over with quickly. Retail employees see this exact moment dozens of times a day, and a calm, brief question does not stand out to them the way it might feel like it does to you in that moment. What stands out to a cashier is a customer who is upset or accusatory, not one who simply asks a clear, polite question to understand what actually happened on the screen. If you are watching this from Europe, the same discomfort and the same fix apply, just with slightly different technology. Chip and PIN terminals can freeze or stall in the exact same confusing way, sometimes shown as a blinking light or a spinning wheel with no clear message either way. The awkwardness of standing there while a small line forms behind you feels identical no matter which country you are in. The fix is the same too. Ask whether the terminal shows a true failure or whether it is simply not responded yet before starting the payment over. 3 things to hold on to no matter where or how you are paying. First, pause before your card goes back a second time, before you tap again, or before you walk away from a stalled pump. Second, ask whether it was a clear decline or an unclear response, because this single question is the one almost nobody thinks to ask, and asking it takes only a few seconds. Third, if it is unclear, ask for a brief pause or a timestamp, because that one habit is what protects your money later. This moment plays out constantly, in every kind of store, at every kind of pump, and on every kind of tap terminal, and it is almost never explained clearly to the person standing there holding their card. This is not about assuming the worst of anyone ringing you up, or distrusting the machines you use every week. Most cashiers are simply moving fast through a system they never designed, and most machines are simply doing their best with a slow connection. It is about making sure that feeling of being rushed or a little embarrassed never quietly turns into a real charge on your account that should never have happened. If this helped you feel more prepared, consider subscribing, because this channel exists to walk through exactly these kinds of everyday moments so you are never caught off guard again. This video is for general education only and is not personalized legal advice for your specific situation. And if you found this useful, watch the earlier video on what to do when a store asks you to re-swipe your card, because it covers a closely related moment from a different angle and the two work well together.